I grew up in Derby. I went to Murray Park School, and I first met John through his dad. Vince, John's dad, was the music teacher at Murray Park. So, I mean, I'd like to think that John's slightly older than me. I think he is. I hope he won't mind me saying that. So I went to school in Mickleover, and I became a chorister at the cathedral. And I learned the organ. And when I left the cathedral, I went firstly for a gap year in Norwich, and then to Oxford University to be an organ scholar at Magdalen College. And John and I, well, we've known each other since, well, we were probably 15 or 16, I think. Yep. And we used to play jazz together. I used to play piano in bands with John, and I've got some fond memories of some of the gigs we did together. So after I'd been a student at Magdalen, Oxford, and then went to the Royal Academy of Music, I spent 2 years there as an organist, but quite quickly became director of music in one of the London churches, in fact the one opposite Marylebone on Baker Street. It's just opposite Marylebone Church, the top end of Marylebone High Street. I've run some choirs. When I was at the Oratory School, I did quite a lot of film and TV recording. So John is absolutely right. I'm a feature on Harry Potter 3. You have to wait a long time to see my name on the credits. But it's genuinely there, believe me. I then went to be assistant organist at New College in Oxford. I've had 4 years in Peterborough, at Peterborough Cathedral as Director of Music, and I'm now back in Oxford in this rather interesting and unusual job. I'm Director of Music at Christ Church Cathedral, so I conduct the choir, but I also have a role in the Faculty of Music. I'm a Professor or Associate Professor in the faculty, and I also do some teaching in Christ Church College. So it's quite a big job, but one that's hugely rewarding.
It sounds absolutely sensational. So your everyday job now is literally just running the School of Music at Christ Church? That's all you do? Or do you do other things for Birmingham Conservatoire? Or is that just, you know, that takes up every minute?
Yeah, it's a big job, this. And I used to do quite a bit of freelance conducting, freelance organ playing, teaching. I spent time as a junior fellow at Birmingham Conservatoire, so I was involved a bit with the organ department there. But now my work's focused. What's unusual about it is that I'm teaching children from the age of 8 upwards who sing in the choir, and I'm also teaching undergraduates, so students who come to Oxford University, both individually in the college, but also I do some lecturing in the faculty. So it's a really interesting and varied role.
Wow. And did you always want to end up here? In fact, Stu, just before I carry on, would you mind putting the link?
Is anyone else, can you give me a thumbs up on the call if, John, you're freezing up a bit from time to time.
I think I have got very dubious internet. So if you could just let me know whether you always wanted to be at Oxford, that would be great. Tell you what, guys, I'll put the questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I think I was quite relaxed about where I was going to go. I knew I wanted to play the organ. I was absolutely sure about that. I was also interested in various other bits of music, in conducting, in jazz. In the end, Oxford happened to be a good fit for me. And one of the things that's attractive about this place is, you know, the breadth of experience you can have here. Rather like Joey, you know, I came here wanting to do the sort of technical elements of music that actually she found quite difficult at Cambridge. The bits I found difficult were some of the essay writing bits. And you know, anyone who comes to a university like this, in fact, probably anyone who goes to any university, they have this kind of inferiority complex. You look around and you see everyone else who seems to be doing so well. And in fact, everybody's in the same boat. All of us find some bits of the course easier, some bits of the course more difficult. But I had a great time here. It's a wonderful city. There's lots and lots of opportunities for music and for other things. And you know, I was really, really glad I came here. I wasn't sure how I was going to find it, you know, but I arrived and it just worked. There are all people from all sorts of walks of life in a university like this. And you know, one of the saddest things I hear from time to time is people who say, oh, well, applying to Oxford or Cambridge or a university like that is not really for me. And it's a real problem for me when I hear that. And one of the things I'm really keen to do is to say to people, look, if you're interested, find out more, you know, follow your desires, your goals. and have a go at these things. I really would encourage anyone who's interested in this sort of university to go for it. Come to an open day, find out more.
I think that's amazing, Stephen. In fact, I'm just going to send you some questions on the Zoom chat. So if you want to open up your Zoom chat, that way we'll try and get away from the thing. So, was it difficult getting a place at Oxford, and how did you go about doing it? Was there an interview and an audition?
Yeah, and for an organ scholarship, you have to play the organ. So you play a solo piece, you do some keyboard tests, some sight reading, that sort of thing. It's a bit like a sort of souped-up associated board exam. So I had to do that. But also, crucially, if you're applying for music or indeed any other subject, you have an interview. Now, not a lot of universities do interview people. And this is really, really important. It takes days. I spend 3 or 4 days doing music interviews each year. And it's a very expensive way of selecting students. It's much easier just to give them a test, get somebody to mark it, and then give them a tick or a cross. The point about the interviews system here is it's designed to assess potential. It's not about what you don't know, it's about what you do know and what you can do. And that's why the university spends all this time and effort interviewing candidates, because we genuinely want to know, we want to find out what interests you, what particular things keep you alive. You've got to be interested in the course, and the interview process is a way of you demonstrating what you can do.
That's incredible. Did you, when you were at Oxford, were there any particular challenges when you were there? Were you there for 3 years as a undergrad?
Yeah, that's right. I did 3 years. I mean, being organ scholar meant I spent a lot of time in the chapel. I did a lot of organ practice. I did do quite a lot of other stuff. I played a little bit of jazz at university, not as much as I'd have liked, but I played a little bit of that. What were the challenges? Getting over the sense that arriving in a place like this, you think everybody else is cleverer than you are. And that took me a little while to get used to. I'd been at school and I'd got pretty good grades at school. Here, I felt like a very small fish in a big pond. But after a bit, you do get used to that. And you come to realize, as I said earlier, that actually everyone else is finding it the same. I found the academic degree, some bits I enjoyed more than others. So I'm just looking at your question in the chat, John. Yeah, I think being here has opened doors. I've been really lucky to have both university education. So there were 6 people reading music in my particular college, and each college has a different number of people in any particular year. And of those 6 people, one person's now a partner at Deloitte's in London. I suspect he earns a little bit more than I do. One person works for a backpacking company in Leeds. Someone else works in publishing. Someone else did a doctorate in Italian literature after his music degree. One of the person works as a brass player. She's a horn player and euphonium player. So there are 2 of us in music and 4 people doing completely different things. And the skills that you guys are learning in your bands and when you practice your instruments are skills that stay administrative and teaching. But I can tell you that the opportunity to just sit down at the piano and do something that isn't staring at a computer screen, much as it's lovely to see all you great people out there on my screen, nothing gives me more pleasure than sitting down at the piano or the organ, the instruments that I started with. I can see another question from John, which is, how does Oxford ensure that it's open to everyone? Well, I mean, that's a really good question, John. And one of the challenges a university like this faces is that it gets a lot of bad press. Admission statistics, balance of state schools versus independent schools. The university is working really, really hard to make sure that anyone who's good enough to get in can. I mean, it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you all today, because I hope, at least when you come off the call, you'll think, well, Steven Grahl wasn't a complete idiot, and if we went to Oxford, we might meet people who were interested in teaching us and interested in helping us progress. One of the things we do is open days, and people are always welcome on those. John and I have had a conversation, and we might talk about this a bit more in a minute, about the possibility of, when COVID's over, set up another Zoom call where me and perhaps another colleague can talk about a bit more specifically about courses for people who are interested in that. what I really want to do is demystify this idea of people walking around in gowns and with mortarboards. You know, everybody who's been to a fee-paying school, it's just not like that. And, you know, my experience in Derby in music making set me up really well for a place like this.
That's amazing. And obviously, you're really happy at Oxford, which is wonderful. Do you see yourself staying at Oxford for a significant amount of time? You know,
who's listening to this call? I've only arrived here. I've been here 2 years now, so I'm a newbie. My predecessor was in this job 33 years, and my boss at New College was in his job 37 years. I reckon with university retirement age, I'll make just about 30. That gives you a little bit more information than you need. Anyway, I'm as old as my passport says I am. Yeah, so probably, I suspect I may be here for the rest of my career. There aren't very many places I would like to go from here.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. And it really was nice that you've been able to do this call as well, because one of the things that we're passionate about at Hot House is about finding the right pathway for the right student. And we want our parents to understand that not one size fits all. It's not everybody going to a regular university. It's not everybody going to Oxford. It's not everybody doing an apprenticeship. Every child is different. And I think Joey really embodied that, you know, for the person who was interested and who was engaged and wanted to just spend time, but didn't necessarily know what was coming out there afterwards necessarily. It was a great choice. And so one of the things that we would like to arrange for all of our Hot House students, you know, there's thousands of them around the country, is we're trying to demystify this, you know, what is Oxford? And I think we're going to try and put that together, hopefully in the middle of July, maybe around July the 12th-ish. So there's a date for the diary there for everybody, where we're going to invite Stephen, and Stephen's going to invite maybe another colleague from a different department, maybe medicine or one of those, to come and answer some questions. And actually, if you've got questions out there that you'd like to ask Stephen now, not just about Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, but if you've got things about Oxford and how it works, now would be a great time to throw those into the chat. I was thinking that, you know, it's very difficult when you come from a regular state school to think that you can fit in. We talked a little bit about, you know, this sense of imposter syndrome. Is it the actual process? You know, a lot of schools seem to be very geared at training people, or, you know, giving them the techniques to do the interview techniques. How does the Oxford make sure that it's aware of those ones that are receiving that level of coaching?
Yeah, we are very conscious of the educational opportunities that people have had. One of the things that comes on the UCAS form as standard is a whole load of what's called contextual data. So if people come from particular areas of deprivation, for example, that's noted on the form. If people have any special educational needs, they're noted on the form. And so what we're interested in assessing is potential. So we're interested in people's ability to engage with the course. So you wouldn't come into an interview and have me ask you to sing the second subject of a Beethoven symphony. That simply wouldn't happen. What would happen is we would give you an extract of text, usually, and it would be a very short article. It wouldn't be about historical things necessarily. It might be about issues in performance, or, you know, what makes an authentic performance, or what do you think about this particular representation of a piece written by an academic. And so we'd ask you to try and understand it and then put it across, and then we'd ask you questions. And if you weren't sure, you'd say, I'm not sure, can you help me with that? And so we'd try to lead you through that process. And we also would probably give you perhaps something like a song to look at. And, you know, we might ask you some technical questions, but if you haven't got a background in techniques or that sort of notes on the page thing, again, that's not a barrier. These interviews are diagnostic rather than game changers. We're interested in seeing people's potential. And the breadth of the course in a place like this is its great strength. You know, people, mostly performers, get to engage with philosophy or ethnomusicology or write academic essays, get to have some kind of performing background. So it's a fantastically broad would life be like for a first-year music student? Well, there'd be some lectures in the Faculty of Music where you'd attend lectures with about 80 other students. There'd be tutorials, and the tutorial is the key thing about the Oxford and Cambridge educative system, where people are taught in groups of 2 or 3 or even 1-to-1. And that way they get in-depth contact with people who are experts in their field. So you might have 1 or 2 hours of tutorial teaching a week. I tend to see my students for about half an hour. My other colleagues see them in groups of 2 for an hour. Lecture-wise, there'd maybe be 2 or 3 lectures a week. You'd have an essay, maybe a piece of technical work. There are loads of ensembles. There are plenty of bands here in Oxford as there are in Cambridge and other universities. There's quite a strong tradition of choral music, which is what I'm involved in, but by no means is that a limiting factor. There are absolutely loads of practical opportunities. You can do practical music in your degree. So I see a question here from Eleanor. When deciding whether to offer a student a place at Oxford, does it come down to your gut instinct, or are you looking for certain things that people say given their answers? That's a good question. I don't think we go on simple gut instinct. We're quite precise for the way they engage with the materials we give them and the questions they ask. Interested, enthusiastic. So we're looking with the course. I hope that answers your question. Can you give me a thumbs up if you're reasonably happy with that answer? Okay, all right, great, fantastic. You can tell I spend a lot of time teaching on Zoom.
I'll jump in, Stephen. Oh, sorry,
go on.
It's Stuart here, so I'll jump in because John seems to have have you got any nuggets of advice for young people who maybe not in a musical route, but also maybe thinking of going to Oxford or Cambridge? Some little nuggets of advice that you've gained through your experiences.
I think one of the things that Joey said was really important. Try things out. A music degree what chorister education is about, training people to great high standards. If you can do that, that's something that's going to have a positive impact on everything in your life.
We really like to hear those kind of things as well. And just another thing, like music especially is not all dandy and not everything goes right all the time. And I was wondering if you had any challenges that you've overcome throughout your career and sort of things that stick out that you think that was a real tough thing or tough moment, but actually it's opened up other avenues or other doors that maybe you wouldn't have come across.
Yeah, there was a time when I was playing the organ really seriously, when I did a couple of big competitions. And I've got the unusual accolade of having been in 2 competition finals and never ever won a prize. So, that's, if I were to write a CV of my failures, that would be one of them, certainly. I look back on, jobs I've done where I've wished I'd done certain things differently. I sort of think back on the things I'd done and wished I'd tackled that problem head on, or I'd left that problem alone. And those are things you can look back on. And I'm relatively young to be in this job, but I know that this is a job I couldn't have done 10 years ago. And I've been really lucky to be able to move from a variety of jobs, schools, music conservatoires. I taught at the Junior Academy for a bit of fellow at Birmingham Conservatoire. I've done a variety of things. And I think, as Joey said earlier, that variety is what's kept my interest alive. I'm better at doing this job for having had that variety of experience.
Yeah, definitely. And the variety is a bit of a spice of life, isn't it? So keeps you going.
Definitely.
And
yeah.
Obviously, you've had some varied moments. Just I was doing a bit of Googling before the session because I grew up in band, but you're a bit before my time of being in band. So I didn't know of you like John. And just looking back and seeing that you're doing stuff in Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and stuff, have you got any fun memories about doing those things that really stick out?
I mean, amazing to go to Abbey Road Studio 2 and record stuff for Harry Potter. And I remember sitting. What they would do is they'd ring up the composer who'd be sitting in a hotel, and they write the music very fast. So one day it's written like that, and Howard Shaw would want to listen to the tracks that had been recorded. And I remember the hush that fell over the recording studio, where they said, "Don't click the microphone. He doesn't like that. That really irks him. Don't do that. Don't do that." And everybody was sort of sitting there, very, very tense, waiting for Howard Shaw to say, "Yes, it's all right. No, do it again." And I see John's back here. I have some very happy memories of John in our playing in a swing band, where John would always be the loudest and the highest. Always the loudest, always the highest. Very happy memories.
Nothing's changed there either. So
very true. Stephen, I don't know if you can hear me and whether the internet's back up in France. I've literally got Jane winding up a motor outside to try and keep it going.
There's a gerbil running around a wheel.
It really is. I mean, I think it's wonderful, the amount of the diversity that you've had in your career. And, we're truly humbled that you've been able to give up your time this evening. And I'm sure that the kids are going to want to know more about Harry Potter, the Lord of the Rings, those who are looking at professional music. How did you get your gig? When you were doing the gig, did it involve the students? These are all things that perhaps they can send through to us as questions. And if you've got a minute, you can then send some answers back if that's all right.
Yeah, very happy, very happy.
And I really appreciate your patience with the internet connection is unstable. I do value that one. My favourite memory of Stephen was when he used to play in a trio over at Murray Park School in Mickleover, and he actually used to play in a trio with a sax player called Amardeep Riat, who is now chief anaesthetist at a very big hospital, who's been on Channel 4, doing lots of TV interviews during the COVID crisis. And it just shows how music binds creativity and it really opens doors for everybody in all works of life. So if it's all right with you...
I'm still in touch with Amardeep.
Really? I'm hoping that he's going to...
we still see each other a couple of times a year.
That's very cool. Very cool. So I'm hoping that Stephen won't mind if you add him on LinkedIn. If anybody has any questions, please do send them through. We do like the Harry Potter ones. And that's going to be it until July the 12th, I believe, where we'll have a better internet connection and we'll host our very first Hothouse virtual open day with Oxford University. And we'll look forward to that one. There'll be details going out. If you've got specific things you'd like to know in advance, please send those through. Otherwise, folks, thank you very much for giving up your evening. And that's the end of season 1. Have a super summer holiday. Ciao for now.
Thank you.
Great to see you. All the best, everybody.